Hi friends, welcome back to Sew Honeybee and part 3 of the Sophisticated Clutch Sew Along. Now if you've missed part 1 or part 2 of this sew along, I'll go ahead and leave links to those videos in the description below. Now I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for this sew along. And our featured sponsor for this week, which is Sew Weird Fabrics. And you can't pass up the coupon code that she has given for all of you watching this video. Now that coupon code gives you 10% off at checkout during the month of April. Now this lounging coat that I am wearing today, I picked up this fabric over at Sew Weird Fabrics. And when I saw this pattern, I knew it had to be a lounging coat. Now this fabric is nice and classy. So whether I am lounging and relaxing at home or whether I want to pop out for coffee with the girls, it's definitely something that I can use. So I'm really glad that I got this one. Now I don't know if she has any more of this pattern left in her shop, but there are a lot of other different fabrics that she has, all the way from solids to florals and fandoms. So I know she'll have something over there for you. Now, just like in weeks past, Jassy will be opening up a thread in Sophisticated Crafts Designs Facebook group, and that thread will be for week 3, where you can post your work in progress for this week. And then again, I will be going live on the Facebook group and draw the winners for that week. Now, all of these details, along with some other ones, will be left in the description below. Okay, now let's get started. Now we are going to start on page 18, number 53. So we have our side gusset pieces here. If you use the hack that I showed you in part 2, your gusset pieces are going to look like this. If you chose not to use the hack, your gusset pieces will be in one piece like this. I'm actually going to use the hack that I showed you, so I'm going to be working with these here. Now, what I want to do is I want to take these, fold them right sides together along the short edge and clip it on both sides. And now I want to sew across here using a 3/8 inch seam allowance, making sure that my edges are right with each other. Now I want to cut this down using a pair of pinking shears. And turn this right side out. Being very careful not to damage my vinyl. Okay, so now I want to do this to all 4 pieces. Now I want to top stitch the 2 short edges with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now remember to hold your back threads so it doesn't create a bird's nest. Okay, so now I have all 4 pieces top stitched, and now I want to just take care of those threads and seal them in. Now grab your interior that we made in part 2. Grab your gussets, and now if you will notice, there is definitely a top and a bottom to these gussets. If you fold them in half, you will notice that one of the short sides is longer than the other. The longer side is your top. Okay, so we want to just roughly clip that into there because we know that's the top. Here is the other one. Okay, so this is the longer side, so we know that this is the top. So I'm going to clip that one in there. Now, again, this is my top, so I want to clip that on there, and then the same thing, this is my top. Remember that this is the top of your bag, and this is the top of your bag, because it's going to be like this, okay? So now, I want to make sure that these are right sides together, which at this point is the inside of my interior and the waterproof canvas side of my gusset. Okay, so now you see where we top stitched right along here? I want to line that up right with that top stitching there. And now I want to clip it really good in place. Then turn to the other side and do the same thing. Right at my top stitching and clip it in place. And do this to the other sides as well. Okay, so now when you look at this, when we attach these two, you will be able to see that we will have vinyl on the outside and waterproof canvas on the inside. Okay, so that's how you know that you got those right. Now I want to baste all 4 of these gussets using a 1/8 inch seam allowance across here. Okay, so we're done with this piece for right now. So now let's set it aside. Okay, so now I have all of my flap pieces here. I have my inner flap, my outer flap, and my heavy stabilizer. So I want to set that aside for right now. I want to grab my interior and exterior pieces of my flap, and I want to place them right sides together and sew across here using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leaving the top open. Now, if you aren't accustomed to sewing curves, go really slow here. It's better to go slow and get it done right than to speed your way through and then wind up having to unpick it and do it over again. Okay, so again, 1/4 inch seam allowance on these 3 sides, leaving this one open. Okay, so now I'm going to take a second pass so those stitches are really stabilized in there. And this will be like a shadow stitch where it will be right outside of this seam. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, before I cut any part of my seam allowance with pinking shears, I want to turn it right side out, make sure all my curves are smooth, and then when I'm happy with it, then I will turn it inside out again, and then clip my seams. I'm happy with that, so now I'll turn it inside out again. Go ahead and clip my seams at this point using pinking shears, making sure that I'm not going to clip any of my stitches. Okay, now turn it right side out again. Really, what I'm doing is I'm pushing on those curves so that they're nice and neat. Okay. Okay, and I'm really happy with that. Okay, now I want to take my heavy stabilizer, and this is Decaville Heavy, and I want to put the sticky side to my cotton side. So now I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this, making sure as much as possible that my cotton does not show on this side, because I only want my vinyl to show on this side. So now I'm going to top stitch it using a 1/8 inch seam allowance, again leaving this section here open. Okay, so now I'm really happy with the way that came out. Now you can see here that there is no cotton fabric that you can see along here, along that edge. All the cotton fabric is on this edge. Okay, so now I am ready for my magnetic snap. I want to put the male portion, the portion with the little nub in here, on my flap. Okay, so this portion here, the female portion, will go on the bag itself, on the front. So I'm going to put that aside for right now. Now I want to first of all find my center. Kind of crease it there. So right there's my center. Okay, and now mark 1/2 inch from the bottom. So now I want to grab my washer and put that marking right in that center circle, and then mark my two edges, just like that, okay? Now I'm only going through the Decaville Heavy and my cotton. I want to make sure that my vinyl, my exterior, does not get damaged at all. So I'm going to put my finger in the back and just kind of now I want to get fray check and just put just a couple of drops there on both sides. Because this is cotton, I want to make sure that there is no issues with it fraying. Now I want to put my magnetic snap in there. Making sure that it goes through the Decaville as well. And then put my washer in the back, and then push those prongs down. Okay, so now my flap is complete, and I have my magnetic snap on there. It has been stabilized with the Decaville. So now I'm going to set this aside. Now I have B2, and there are two of them, because I am using a directional fabric. Now, if you are not using a directional fabric, you will have cut out B1, and this will be one piece. So you will be able to skip ahead. You won't have to do this step, okay? But because we have two, we have to put it together. So now, remember, I marked my top when I cut this out so that when I put these together, one of them wouldn't get turned around. Do you see how that can be directional? Now I want to get my two bottoms together. See how this is up? So this is my top. And this is up. So this is my top. So I want to get these two bottoms together. And I want to put them right sides together. So now I want to clip it and then sew it across the bottom using a 3/8 inch seam allowance across here. Now what I want to do is I want to do a shadow stitch right on this side across here. So now I want to get my scissors and I want to snip the corners, making sure I don't clip any of those threads. Now I want to open this out, finger press this, and now I want to top stitch with the seam open. I want to top stitch 1/8 of an inch on both sides, making sure that my seam is open. Okay, so now it's all top stitched. Now at the bottom of page 21, she gives you the measurement that this should be from top to bottom. Go ahead and cut it down if you need to, making sure that this seam is still in the exact center. Okay, so now I am on page 22, the exterior and interior assembly. Okay, so now I want to get my flap. This is my exterior, and this is my inside, and I want to, first of all, find the centers of both pieces. Okay, so I've marked my center on my flap. I still have the center marked here on this from when we were assembling it. Now I want to put my interior right side up. I want to put my exterior right side up, my exterior of my flap. So now I want to clip these. And now I want to base this using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now on number 79, she gives you the measurement that your zipper should be. And this is really important that you make the zipper that size, because when we go to sew it on the exterior of our wallet, we want to make sure that it is out of the seam allowances. So we don't want it to be too long or too short. So it has to be just right. And again, that is a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Now we are going to top stitch using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Then we are going to trim away the excess on the back. Okay, so now let me trim off the excess. Okay, and there's my zipper complete. So now I want to attach my zipper. So I want to make sure that my zipper is closing from the right to the left. So I want to put it like this, okay? I want to put it right sides together, matching my centers. So I need to mark my center on the other side of the zipper as well. So I'm just going to put the tiniest little snip. So there's my center right there. Then here's my center. So I want to match my centers, clip it across the top. So now I'm going to base this on using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure your zipper pull is out of the way. Okay, so now I am ready to apply my lining to my outer pocket. Now I've embroidered a small little message along with my name because I do not have a bag tag. So I like to put a little message in there using my embroidery machine. Okay, so there are 2 lining pieces. I want to make sure that when this goes in, it is on the correct side. So that when this pocket is opened up, this embroidered piece is on the back side. So this one here has to go in the front. So I have to put this one on here. So I want to, first of all, find my center. And mark it. And then go ahead and clip it to here. All the way across. Okay, so now when I open this up, this panel here is going to be on the back. And so that's how I know because when I open it up, I want this to be on the other side. So that's how I make sure that I'm putting the right panel on that side. Okay, so now I want to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, attaching this to my zipper. I'm going to put my zipper in the center so I know where that zipper is, and then when I get to it, I will move it out of the way. Now, this is a lot of bulk here. I'm going to go ahead and use my hump jumper to put that there to help me go over this here, okay? Making sure I'm staying true to that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I want to move my zipper out of the way, my zipper pull. And I want to do the same thing over here. Okay, just kind of finger pressing that whole thing, trying to put it into place. Okay, so that goes like that. Okay, so now I have my panel on this side, my flap on this side, and my zipper as well. Okay, now I want to top stitch across here only through piece C and my seam allowance. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch here using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. This is where our D-rings come in. If you are going to use D-rings instead of grommets, you are going to apply your D-rings right here with the D-ring on this side. You are going to find that information on where you put your D-rings on number 95 in your instruction book. Since I'm going to use grommets, I'm going to skip over that. So now the next thing I need to do is I need to grab my exterior. So I know that this here is my center, so I'm going to match my center with the other side of my zipper. And I'm going to clip that all the way across. Now I want to base this across here with a 1/8 inch seam allowance, just like we did on the other side of the zipper. Okay, so that is basted on there. Now I want to add the other lining piece. So these two were put right sides together. So now I want to flip it over and I want to put these two right sides together, but attaching it to the top just like I did for the exterior. Clip it all the way across. And now I want to sew the lining and the exterior to the zipper using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay. And again, staying true to that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I want to move my zipper pull out of the way. Okay. Okay, so now my flap, my card slot panel, and my lining are on this side, okay? What's on this side is my exterior and my lining piece. Let me roll this up to make sure it doesn't get in the way. Okay, let me close my zipper. Okay, so now I am wanting to top stitch across here at a 1/8 inch seam allowance only through the exterior and this lining. And again, I want to make sure all my other pieces are out of the way. And now, since my pocket lining is white, I want to make sure that as I top stitch, that the white lining is all the way towards the back so that it doesn't show towards the front. Okay. So I want to pull. Actually, I think I can keep my zipper closed and it'll be out of the way. Just making sure that my pull is out of the way. So that when I pull my lining and my exterior, that the zipper being closed will help me with that. So again, I'm going to pull my lining and then my exterior. Now go really slow here because this is an outer seam and this is one that is going to be prominent in your bag. So you want to make sure that you're really straight here. Okay, and again, I am pulling my white lining more to the back so that it doesn't show all the way to the front. Okay, so that looks really good. And there you go, kind of get a glimpse of what your bag will look like. If you would like to go ahead and fold that up. That's what our bag is looking like. I really like that. Oh my goodness, this vinyl from my punk broidery is so nice. Okay, so that is where we're going to stop on part 3. Please join us for part 4, where we will do our final assembly. And again, I'd like to thank our sponsors: So Weird Fabrics, My Punk Broidery, and Whimsical Fabric Design. We couldn't have done this sew along without you. Okay, until next time, I'll talk to you later.